All right, let's just get right into it. We're going to run the numbers on one of the most stressful questions out there. How much house can your salary actually buy you?
So you feel like you've done everything right. You've got a good job, you're making decent money, you've been saving up. You think, okay, I'm ready to buy a house. But then you start looking, and suddenly every single listing feels like a trap, like a financial nightmare just waiting to happen. What is going on?
And everyone seems so encouraging. The bank emails you, congratulations, you're approved. Your real estate agent is all smiles. But there's a huge problem hiding in plain sight. A problem they're definitely not telling you about.
Here it is. You probably can't actually afford any of those houses. At least, not in a way that lets you, live an actual life without being stressed about money 24/7. And we're going to show you the math that proves it, right here, right now.
Okay, so let's kick things off with what I like to call the affordability illusion, because this is all about why the numbers everyone is throwing at you, they just don't add up.
And this is really where it all starts. It's this battle between two completely different rules. On one side, you've got the classic, sound financial advice, the 28% rule. It's simple. Don't spend more than 28% of your pre-tax income on housing if you want to, sleep at night. But then you have the bank's rule. They use something called the 43% debt-to-income rule, or DTI. And that means all your debt, your new mortgage, car payments, student loans, everything, can add up to a whopping 43% of your income.
And this is so important to understand. That 43% number, it is not a suggestion for a happy life. It is the absolute red line maximum level of financial stress the bank's algorithm thinks you can take before you completely break and default on the loan. Seriously, they're not protecting you, they're protecting their investment.
So, just how big is this gap between what the bank says is okay and what's actually comfortable? Well, let's decode the real costs. Let's do the math that they kind of forget to show you. All right, let's use a real-world example. Say we're looking at a pretty typical $400,000 home. You put 10% down. With interest rates where they are, your base mortgage payment, that's just the principal and interest, the P&I, comes out to about $2,150 a month. And that's the number everyone gets fixated on.
But that's not the real number. It's not even close. Now we have to add in all the other stuff, the hidden costs.
Okay, you ready? First, let's add property taxes. We'll be conservative and say that's another $450 a month. Then you've got homeowners insurance. Tack on another $300. Oh, and since you only put 10% down, you get to pay something called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. That's another $275 a month, just gone. And finally, let's not forget stuff is going to break. The general rule of thumb is to set aside 1% of the home's value each year for maintenance. So that's another $333 a month you need to save, assuming your water heater doesn't explode. So you add all that up, and boom, there it is. Your real monthly housing cost isn't $2,150, it's $3,508. That's what, nearly $1,400 more every single month than that initial number you were looking at? So, what kind of salary do you need for a payment like that? Well, to be comfortable following that 28% rule, you need to be making $150,000 a year. But the bank? Oh, they'll approve you on an income as low as $98,000. And that right there, that's the affordability gap, a $52,000 difference between actually living in your home and just surviving in it. Which brings up a question I know a lot of people are asking. Why does this feel so impossible? Why does it seem like it was so much easier for our parents? Well, let's look at the generational gap, because it was easier. Think about it like this. Back in 1980, the average house cost about 3 times what the average family earned in a year. A stretch, for sure, but doable. Today, the average house costs 5 times the average household income. The mountain we have to climb is just fundamentally taller and steeper.
And what's the result of all this? Well, the dream is just getting pushed further and further back. In 1991, the typical first-time homebuyer was 28. 28. By next year, the projection is that the average first-time buyer will be 40 years old. 40! That's a huge shift in what we consider a normal life path.
Okay, so if everything's so expensive and out of whack, you might be thinking, well, I'll just wait for the market to crash. I hear that a lot. But there's a really good reason why that's probably not going to happen. It's called the market lock-in effect. Here's the whole story in one chart. A massive 81% of people who currently have a mortgage have an interest rate below 6%. Look at that. Over 20% have a rate below 3%. Now ask yourself,
Why in the world would you sell your house, give up a 3% mortgage, and then have to go get a new one at 7%? You wouldn't.
Exactly, you wouldn't. They are locked into those low rates, and so nobody's selling. That means inventory, the number of houses for sale, is super, super low. And basic economics tells you when supply is low and demand is high, prices don't crash. They stay elevated. So if we can't count on a market crash to save us, what on earth are we supposed to do? Well, let's not end on a down note. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about a new playbook, a set of strategies that actually put you back in the driver's seat. Okay, 4 options. Strategy 1, move. It's called geographic arbitrage. The same salary that gets you a tiny apartment in a big coastal city could buy you a beautiful home and a great life somewhere else. Strategy 2, buy less. Maybe the goal isn't the dream home right away. Maybe it's the starter home, a condo, something that builds equity without destroying your budget. 3, house hack. This is a game changer. Buy a multifamily property and have your tenants pay your mortgage or just rent out a spare room. And finally, strategy 4, wait. And there is zero shame in this. Keep renting, stack cash, focus on growing your income, and wait for the right opportunity. Being house poor is not a prize.
And listen, if there's one thing you take away from all this, I want it to be this. You are not failing. If you feel like you can't afford a home, it's not a personal failure. The system is failing you. The goalposts have been moved so far that what was a normal milestone for our parents is now basically a luxury item.
So looking at this math and saying, you know what, this doesn't make sense for me right now, that's not giving up. That is the smartest thing you can do. It's taking control. It's making a decision based on reality, not on what you're supposed to do. And that is a choice that will make your life genuinely better.
So in the end, forget the pre-approval letter. Forget what the bank says you can do. The only question that really truly matters is this one. Will buying that house